The Gambia is getting ever closer to the realization of a national defense policy several decades after independence. After months of behind-the-scene as well as public engagement, draft Gambia national defense policy is currently being validated. Jacqueline Colley has more.
Stakeholders in the defense and security industry, participants from other sectors of the economy, and the civil society on Tuesday met to begin a two-day validation of the draft Gambia national defense policy. The crafting of the National Defense Policy is being funded under the aegis of British High Commission in Banjul, and it's part of security sector reform assessment recommendations. The two-day validation workshop is aimed at assisting in ensuring an enriched institutional framework for the effective and efficient functioning of the defense sector. The Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces, Yankuba Drame, said the policy is a historic one as it takes center stage in the history of the Gambia and the armed forces in particular. According to CDS Drame, the absence of a defense policy has to some extent contributed to the lack of basic capacities of establishing a strong national defense and security structures in the Gambia.
It is pertinent to state that although the Gambia has had other regulatory frameworks, the absence of a defense policy to some extent contributed to the lack of the basic capacities to establish a strong national defense and security structures within the Gambia. It is therefore my considered view that the lack of such fundamental national requirement has the potential to expose the Gambia to security threats and challenges which could have undermined its independence, sovereignty, and development. Remember,
he pointed out that the policy is paramount to national interests as it guarantees national security against national threats and aggressions.
The policy provides a theoretical basis of the national defense to guarantee national security against threats and aggression. That's quite commendable. In translating these facts into tangible actions, there is absolute need to ensure that the Gambia Armed Forces possess the right capability and training to successfully and efficiently defend the Gambian people, its political sovereignty, and territorial integrity against any forms of aggression.
The British High Commissioner to Banjul, David Belgrove, said the Gambia is in the right step of having a national defense policy, and he explains why the policy is important.
And it is indeed the appropriate time to do this. The Gambia is in a new political era, an era where politically we're showing respect for the human rights of its citizens and protects their interests. But as with most work of government, and I've been in my government for more years than I care to remember, many more years than I care to remember, but everything starts with the policy. Without the policy, which sets the parameters of what you do, it's very difficult to move on. It's very difficult to have the objectives and the goals unless you've got the parameters, the political parameters in which to operate.
Minister of Defense Sheikh Omar Faye argued that if a defense policy was drafted and implemented in the former regimes, perhaps other vital development strategies might have been in the process, as he went on to explain how the draft will answer some questions regarding the security of the nation.
As a policy document seeks to answer the questions what and why, our national security policy did just this and help encourage a good level of cross-government understanding of the wider micro-strategic security issues facing our country. The government took the next logical and progressive step in developing and ratifying the country's 2020 National Security Strategy, the NSS. This document helped move us beyond the what and why and address issues such as when, how, who, and what if. Committed to gathering knowledge of global good practice in national security management, our esteemed executive leveraged his strong international relationship to ensure that the strategy benefited from support of an international strategic advisory team, the support of which the country still benefits from.
Meanwhile, this is the country's first ever defense policy draft, and the policy will ensure full civil control over the armed forces as enshrined in the security sector reform recommendations. Jacqueline Colley for Star TV News.